whiteboarding session. As you can see, I have the funnel diagram that's going on behind me, and it's basically the biggest question I get all the time, which is really, what is this funnel thing, which we've already talked a little bit about, but I want to start digging into it a little bit deeper. And today, what I really want to discuss is whiteboarding sessions. And as you can see, I've got the drawing behind me. It's a little bit unclear, so I'm going to clear that up, because one of the things that people don't do when they start putting together their funnels is they don't ever map out what the whole process is supposed to look like. So first of all, let's talk about what is the goal of a whiteboarding session. Quite simply, it's to draw a map. It's the map that you would draw of your customer experience from the minute that they meet you and how they're going to meet you and what's going to happen and all the specific pieces that come with it, all the way through to the end. Now, most of us as business owners have an idea of what the end looks like. We have an idea of, I want coaching clients, or I want people to buy my product or service, or I want somebody that's going to be at the highest level of whatever it is I do. And so we gear our whole business and our whole process around this idea of what are we going to put at the end of the funnel. And it doesn't mean that the end of the funnel is not important. You need to know what your core offer is. You need to know what the biggest thing that you do is. But for the most part, very few people actually ever get together and draw out the map. And so when I was talking about funnels on the Facebook Live that I did a bit earlier this week, or it may have been last week when I was discussing it, I mentioned that really over time, the goal of a funnel overall is to be able to answer yes or no questions. We are trying to draw our clients, our potential audience, whoever it is that we're having a conversation with, into a series of different yes or no questions. And a lot of those questions are definitely going to be offer related. They're going to be us saying, all right, do you want this offer that I'm making to you? Yes or no? Do you want this product? Yes or no? And so in this case, although I know that it's a bit far away and you won't be able to see it, I just like to show the idea of the map of what a funnel looks like, because this is determining what all the different decision points are. And what it's also showing is all the different type of content that it is that you have to develop. Now, depending on how you do your whiteboard session, it doesn't really matter. This one we're doing sideways, and there's some other stuff on the board, but really you can do it, you can turn the board sideways and have it go in the true funnel fashion where you're going from the top of the funnel all the way down to the bottom, but in this one we're going sideways. And so basically, as we move from the left side of the funnel on the whiteboard to the right side of the funnel on the whiteboard, the level of commitment and the level of escalation is getting higher and higher and higher. So the asks that we're asking for at each level are getting a little bit more higher level of commitment. I should speak good English. That's not what happens here on my Facebook Live, though. If you've already learned this, I just speak gibberish half the time. So either way, what you want to be thinking about is, how do we raise that level of commitment? And what a lot of us do wrong, especially when we're not doing whiteboarding sessions, or we're just kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall and trying to figure out what sticks, is we don't think about the level of commitment. We start by trying our hardest to get people into the highest level of what we do. Or we start by trying to get people into the biggest level of commitment, or levels of commitment that don't necessarily make sense for wherever they are in the funnel. So on the left side of the funnel, and actually what you probably can't see super well, some of you, depending on how big your monitor is or how big what you have going on is over there, you know, in this particular funnel that we're talking about, the very beginning is going to be focused on some really basic levels of content. We're going to be looking at creating written blog posts. And for blog posts, we're not talking about writing, your compendium post or your larger post, but we're talking about the idea of little tips, little tricks, little things that you can do. And in this particular model, we're also talking about audio and video, and we're rotating through those types of content weekly with what we're doing here in this particular whiteboard session that we're designing. So you can see a lot of that in what we're doing to you here at Explore Momentum and how we're teaching this concept, because again, for the most part, there's daily or weekly content that's being released to you, and it's being repurposed throughout the funnel. Now, for the most part, this isn't asking you to take a huge chunk of your life. It's not necessarily saying now is the time to buy something, or now is the time to exchange contact information, or now is the time for you to jump into a process that's going to take you weeks or months or something to complete. We're not at that level, and for most of you who follow me on Facebook, you're at the level where all you're trying to figure out is, what's the first step for you? And for most of you, I have a good idea of what that is. The first step for you is, how do you find your next lead? Or how do you launch your next marketing campaign? Or how do you do something in your business that's going to help you get more of the customers that you want to find? That's what you're here to try and do. If I'm trying to jump you all the way into the process where I'm saying, all right, let's get together and let's build our funnel and let's get all the emails done and all the content done and all that stuff, For the most part, at this point, the customer is going to get overwhelmed, or the person that I'm talking to is going to get overwhelmed. Why you're here is to get quick tips and realize, oh, that's really the thing that I want. That's really the thing that I'm interested in. That's what's important to me as I watch this video or as I watch what you're doing. And so then from that point, as we move across, then we start to determine what are the interest levels. So I gave you in our funnel, which I like to talk about, that's very specific. There's 3 types of people that work with momentum or that work with me as a consultant or a marketing client. There's people that are currently in marketing campaigns or ready to launch a marketing campaign, and they're determining what's the best way to spend their money or what's the best way to get this whiteboard put together so that we can determine how do we really get the build done. Or there's a client who isn't super familiar with marketing. They know that they need more clients, but they're not really sure, especially when it comes to the technology. When we're talking about paid traffic, or we're talking about how do you put your blog together, or how do you put your social together, or any of those things. And then there's a third level of client that I work with. That's a client who might be, yet another one of you that's listening to this. That's like, all right, I know I need to be marketing. I know I need to be finding more customers. I know I probably need some process. But at this point, I don't really know what I need, or I'm still kind of trying to figure out exactly what this whole marketing game and how all this stuff, kind of fits into a puzzle. And so based on that, you can see on this particular whiteboard, those are broken up into different types of content. There's content that speaks specifically to each one of those particular customers, which a lot of you have to figure out what that is. You have different types of customers that you're going to be working with, but you don't know who they are well enough, and you don't know what decisions they need to be making at what times that make the most sense based off of what they're trying to do. And so in this case, from there, we start to determine what's the first major offer, what's the second major offer. But again, when we're talking about whiteboard sessions, we really want to be saying very specifically, what does that roadmap look like? From this minute that they meet you, wherever it is they meet you, if they meet you at a networking event, if they meet you online via your social media, if they come to you via paid traffic, if they come to you from your existing list that you've already had out there, any of those things could be working out in your favor. You just got to figure out what are all the moving pieces and what are you going to do consistently. And from a whiteboard session, another critical point a lot of you should be thinking about is when you've got the map in mind and you have the idea of how you're going to be working with your customer, how you're going to be attracting your customer, you need to be consistent with it for a while. A lot of people will launch these efforts and they'll move them forward, and then they'll only give them a very short amount of time, or they're only trying something once or twice or 3 times, and then they're like, oh, well, that didn't work. For the most part, when you got your whiteboarding session, you want to stick to that strategy for a minimum of 90 days. You want to say, all right, these 2 or 3 or 4 types of content that I'm developing are types of content or are delivery mechanisms that I'm going to be doing consistently for a minimum of 90 days. And in my case, I like to look at them in 6-month periods, but in 90 days, you can really tell if your video, for example, really isn't working. Within 90 days, you'd have an idea of whether or not that it's working. Now, that said, that might mean an adjustment in strategy, or that might mean we're tweaking something, not eliminating it altogether. But if you don't give something enough time and consistency and energy, then chances are it's not going to be super productive for you. And especially when it comes to the world of paid traffic, especially those of you who are very nervous about the idea of, oh, I have to pay for my leads, I have to pay for my traffic, there's expense. Expecting instant results is the kiss of death to those type of campaigns. The idea of saying, oh, I'm going to launch my first ad, and really I'm expecting that ad to be perfect within the first round. For the most part, that's not going to happen. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing those things. It just means you need to have an organized strategy, which is what this whiteboarding type session puts together for you. And most of all, let's just make it easy on yourself visually. It's very easy visually to get the idea of whatever it is your client experience is. And if it's simple in your own mind and it's visual in your own mind, you have the ability to say, all right, I know how to walk the order. I know the idea of what happens at step 1 or where they meet me, all the way through what happens at step 10 when they're my customer for life, or when they're working in a coaching program, or they're working in a high-level program with me. If you have a visual idea in your mind of what that looks like, it's very easy when you meet a new customer or you attract a new customer to put them into the process. You know where they belong. And that doesn't mean that every customer you meet is going to start at step 1. Some might start at step 3. Some might start at step 6. Doesn't matter. But for the most part, you have the visual process in your mind that says, all right, I know based on who I meet and how they're talking to me and what type of support they need or how they're going to work with my product or service, I know very clearly where to put them in the process. Ryan Levesque, the guy that wrote Ask, which is a great marketing book that simplifies this and kind of teaches the concept with surveys and a different idea, talks about buckets. And the idea of you will, in your own mind, when you have your whiteboard process done and drawn out, have an idea of what buckets people belong in and at what stage in the process they are with you. Now, for the most part, it's always best to assume that your people are starting at the beginning, or the new people that you're meeting are at the beginning. So how do you learn these things in your whiteboard process, or how do you figure it out? You get a closer idea of your customer and the types of things your customer wants. Just like what I was telling with you of what does that really mean in the long term to be able to say, who is my customer and what do they want? The key behind these whiteboards and the key behind these maps is to really tell you in the long term, who is your customer, what do they want, and how do we walk them through some sort of organized and systematic process. This isn't random. It isn't all over the place. We're not making it up as we go along. We have an idea of what that process is going to be from the beginning. Trust me, what it does for you to do this type of session or to work with a consultant or work with me in the long term to be able to get these things done is it gives you the clear picture, which if your mind is clear and your process is clear and your idea is clear, it makes it far, far easier for your customer to work with you. For the most part, for all of you out there who are new to marketing or you're not as experienced or you're even new to business, it's very difficult for your customers to figure out how to work with you. They don't know. If you tell a customer, oh, well, you could go to my blog, or oh, you could come to my Facebook Live video, or oh, you can go to all these different places, and there's no particular process, trust me, they'll get lost. If you're lost, your customer is 5 times more lost, or 10 times more lost. They just don't know how to work with you. So for a lot of you, let's make it easier. And that's again why we call this momentum. The idea of saying once we make one good decision or one good start, it's very easy to make a second good decision. It's very easy to get people to go through a process with you for the long term to be able to figure out how they work with you and what they're doing with you in that process. And for a lot of you, that's exactly what you need to figure out. It's exactly what you need to say, all right, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to take a piece of paper, I'm going to take a whiteboard, I'm going to draw out this process, and I'm going to know from the very beginning how my customers are going to work with me and how I'm going to make it as easy as humanly possible to get new people into what I'm doing and get them going through a process with me. And that process could be varying length. You never know. We'll see how that plays out over time. So again, for a lot of you who have questions, thank you so much for all the great feedback I've been getting on these sessions. I really appreciate everything that I've been getting, questions I've been getting, and so many new followers out here on the Explore Momentum Facebook page. I encourage you. Welcome. Tell me who you are. Tell me what your marketing or business challenges are. Let's answer them. Let's make it easier for you to find your customers, to get your customers to work with you, to build this process. And for some of you, this is what you need right now. You need a funnel built right now. You need a whiteboarding session right now. So leave that in the comments. Let me know what you're looking for. Let me know how I can help you grow your business, grow yourself, and keep you moving forward. Ken Course here, as always. And for those of you who have not yet registered, leadgenevent.com. A lot of you need to head over there and get registered. You need this system in your life. You need to know what it is. You need to know how to build it from start to attracting customers all the way through to creating lifetime relationships. And that's how you do it. leadgenevent.com. October 19th, Concourse LAX. I hope to see a lot of you there. I know a lot of you need the assistance. Let's get you moving. Let's help you move forward, generate more leads, make your business life easier, get rid of the headaches, and make it easy to work with you. So Ken Course here, as always. Ask your questions, leave your comments, and see you upcoming soon on another episode of Find Your Momentum.